Welcome to Tuesday Talks, your educational podcast helping parents become strong advocates for their kids and teachers to make big impacts in the classroom. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back for another amazing Tuesday Talks. I'm sure you're joining me every week because we are talking about all things education, all things kids, all things parenting. So be sure that you set any notifications, subscribe, like, share, all the social media stuff. I have another great episode for you today, and this is one you don't want to miss. We are talking all about mindset and leadership, how the way we think can change the way we lead. So just conceptualize that for a minute. We're talking about mindset and leadership, two very important things, whether you're a kid or an adult, and how the way we think can shape the way we lead and help us unpack that we have this incredible gift inside of us to be able to choose, right? And I have a really special guest today. Andre Kennebrew is joining me. He is a seasoned leader with a heart for developing people and developing leaders. He is currently the director of relationships at LifeShape, where he's helping connect leaders and organizations around the world with purpose-driven impact. Before joining LifeShape, Andre spent 15 years at Chick-fil-A, where he specialized in recruiting, coaching, developing all of the top talent, building the kind of culture that has become a model for leadership excellence. And beyond Chick-fil-A and LifeShape, Andre used his gift for growth to support small businesses, nonprofits, and universities through leadership development, interview coaching, and organizational training. So developing leaders isn't just what Andre does, it is who he is. And that's why he is the perfect guest to help us explore what it really means to lead with vision, purpose, and the right mindset. So I'm going to bring him to the stage. Hello.
Dr. Williams, so good to be with you today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me for today's episode. I really appreciate it. And I know you have such an extensive background that really highlights this focus. And here on Tuesday Talks, we talk about developing kids and how parents and teachers can really contribute to that. And so for those who are kind of new to the concept, what is the difference really between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset? Because I know that can really shape how kids engage with different activities, friends, how they show up in the world.
Absolutely. What I'm going to give you now, Dr. Williams, is the basics of fixed mindset and growth mindset. And it's very important to the parents to really take this basic because right now they are helping their children be shaped one way or another. And their ultimate success long term as adults is going to depend on how well they help their children develop a growth mindset. So let me start with a fixed mindset first. The fixed mindset is a belief that intelligence and abilities are static traits. In other words, you get all of your ability to learn and your intelligence at once. You either have it or you don't.
Okay.
And the way you see this in people, and you can actually see this and observe it if you watch people, is this way. Those people with fixed mindset will avoid challenges to prevent failure. They don't try because they already fear failure. Also, they give up easily when faced with obstacles. They see effort as fruitless.
Mm.
They don't think that you can get better. They think that you are what you are. They ignore useful feedback, even when told about their performances and things that they are either learning or not learning. They'll avoid it, and then they feel threatened at the success of others. When
Wow.
others around them are being successful, they tend to be feel threatened and get insecure.
That
The
is,
mindset, yeah, and,
I was going to say
and
that's so interesting because I know that any parent or teacher watching, when as you were giving that definition of fixed mindset, you could think of kids, either your
yes,
own or your students who fit
yes,
that description.
that model. You can think of kids, you can think of teachers, you can actually think of leaders, you can think of people that you go and you go like, wow,
Right.
that person has a fixed mindset. No wonder they aren't growing, and no wonder the people they're leading aren't growing. So
Right.
fixed mindset leaders not only limit themselves, but they also limit the people that they're leading.
I think that's such a huge idea because if you're the teacher in the classroom and you have that fixed mindset, that is directly impacting then how you're interacting with your students, how you're viewing them, and ultimately the success of your students,
Yeah,
right?
no question about it. Our children have been victims of being taught by teachers with fixed mindset because the words and things that they speak to them limit their ability to grow as learners. So let me talk a little bit about the growth mindset, which is
Yeah.
kind of the opposite of that. It's the belief that intelligence and abilities can be developed through, this is important, dedication, effort, and learning.
Mhm.
When you see someone with a growth mindset, and again, I like what you said, Dr. Williams, you can literally think through students as I'm naming these traits.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Children that you see embrace challenges, they embrace them. In a classroom, for example, if there's a problem and there's a that needs to be solved, you see some kids going like, "I give up," and then others go like, "I am going to continue until I fix the problem or I get the answer to my question. I'm not going to quit." They persist in the face of setbacks. They see effort as a path to mastery. Now, this is really important
Mm.
because they're trying to master things.
Yeah.
And so think about the best people, particularly in sports and other things, they become masters of their craft.
Mhm.
They learn from criticism. They welcome feedback. Tell me how I can do this better. They're very coachable.
Mm.
And they find inspiration in others' success. When others succeed, they go like, if they did it, I can do it too.
Right.
And the mindset fosters a love for learning. And so as parents and as teachers, we have to help young people have a love of learning and resilience. All of these are important for great accomplishments.
Yeah.
And if you think about every great accomplishment, it was fostered by people learning and staying with it.
Yes. And I think that again, like you just said, you if you're listening as a parent or teacher, you can think of some kids right now that fit that definition as well. You see that dedication, that effort, that the ongoing learning, the love for learning. And I think that that can be seen not only in the classrooms, but also at home. It can show up in sports, the way your kids interact in group projects. All of that can really speak to whether they have that fixed or growth mindset. Because, like you just mentioned, and I hope everybody's taking notes because Andre is dropping some deep knowledge here. He said, effort as a path to mastery. That you don't have to get it right the first time, but that effort that you consistently give over time is that path towards mastering that thing. And it makes me think about conversation I had with my son who's playing flag football. And those same words that you just used, like you need to be coachable. You need to go out there and give effort every time. You need to make sure that you're hearing the feedback that the coach is giving you and then executing that feedback in the next play. It can be on the field, it could be in the classroom, it could be at home, but that can be such a barrier if your kids or your students don't have that growth mindset. It could be a barrier to a lot of experiences.
Absolutely. And I do have to give this note because this is very, very important, is a lot of this information that I'm sharing is from a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she's kind of known as the expert in this. She's a professor at Stanford who wrote about this a long time ago. And about 10 or 15 years ago, the book was given to me. And when that book was given to me, it was a life changer for me, even because what happens, Dr. Williams, is you can have a growth mindset in one area, at a fixed mindset in another area. And so what
Oh,
that means is that if there's a subject, so I'll give you an example. I have a fixed mindset around technology.
okay.
And so I'm like, I can't learn any more about technology. So when I got my iPhone, and the first thing I did was I gave it to my children and said, "Can you show me how to work it?" I'm like, how easy is it to work an iPhone? But the fixed mindset limited me from
Right.
using this great tool I had. Now, when I broke out of the fixed mindset, I was able to maximize the use of it. So I'll just use that as an example. So nobody has a full growth mindset in every subject. So it's always important for you to be identifying what is my thinking on this particular topic? What is
Hmm.
my thinking on this particular situation? Because if I'm not careful, the fixed mindset can slip in, and that will limit. I'll stop giving effort. Just think about it. When you hear somebody say that they can't change things, the effort immediately stops.
Yes, it just
Yeah,
decreases right away.
exactly.
I like
So,
that
yeah,
example that you gave about the iPhone too. Like, I think that's really practical for people to kind of connect to some everyday concept. You already in your mind were like, I can't do this. And so then you gave that responsibility to somebody else who has a growth mindset and is able to explore it, mess up, fix it, go through that, that cycle. But you first had to identify that you had that mindset and
yes,
recognize that in yourself as well. So I think that ownership of where you have that fixed mindset is really important. And I think it's important to also know that, like you said, you can have fixed and growth mindsets in different areas too. I know for me, math, I have a definite fixed mindset there.
yes, yes,
I don't mind saying I'm horrible at it. I don't want to do it. I use a calculator for almost everything and I'm okay with that. And so you're
yeah.
right. I don't grow in that area because I've already determined there's nothing more for me to learn here.
I do.
Yeah.
And we just see it in so many places. And so how does mindset? I'm going to anticipate your next question, but how does mindset influence students?
Yeah.
'Cause it's important. Uh, when they have a fixed mindset, they are defining their success and they're interpreting failure and their value differently. So think about that. So if I get an A, then I did it because I'm intelligent.
Hmm.
If I get a B, that's all the intelligence I have. So all of my
Hmm.
levels of grades are determine where I am. And so if I made straight A's all the way through high school and got to college and made a C, I'm thinking C is as good as it can get if I have a fixed mindset. Okay. And so students, you got to be careful with telling them you're smart. You think that's a great thing to tell a person is you're smart?
Mm.
Because if they start thinking they're smart, then when they don't answer something, they automatically think they're no longer smart anymore.
Ah, that's a good point. Because I think a lot of teachers and parents, we all want to encourage, I'm guilty of it, encourage my kids, you're smart, you can do this. And
Yeah.
so then if you think about it, if I'm saying to my son, you're smart, you can do this, but he finds this, whatever that thing is, very challenging and he's not successful at it, then the implication there is that you're not smart
You're
because
not
you
smart.
can't figure this out.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's right. So as a parent and teacher, you want to focus your praise on effort rather
Mhm.
than intelligence. And so you when someone works hard, and so if somebody has a D and works and gets it to a B, and they work hard at it, you praise that. If somebody gets an A and you say you're smart, you may be telling them that you have learned all you can learn, and when something comes up you don't know, it means you don't have the ability to learn it.
I like that. Focus praise on effort.
Don't focus all the praise on effort. That's really key to doing that. And so we can affect children by what we say, because if we
Definitely.
focus on you're smart, you're telling me I'm something, and that's permanent or not permanent, or it can change. But if I say effort can always change. If you think about successful people who have arrived at the top of their game, there is not that much difference in talent.
Hmm.
So people will say this, and it's probably true. Michael Jordan is one of the most talented basketball players to ever play. But the difference in talent between Michael Jordan and some of the other players, the top 100 to 200 or 300 players in the world, is significantly very insignificant. But nobody worked harder than
Right.
Michael Jordan, and nobody gave more effort than Michael Jordan. There's a story here of when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird had their rivalry, that those guys would go in their gym and they would shoot 1,000 jump shots. And then they would get ready to leave the gym and they would say, wait a minute, I wonder if Larry Bird is still practicing. If he is, I need to go shoot another 500 because he is not going to outwork me.
Mm.
And so that's the mentality that you saw in the best. And so whether it's being a doctor, a lawyer, no matter what it is, there's always this idea of uh, I can become better.
Yeah.
I can become better. I'm never as good as I can be, so I have to keep working um, to get better.
I like that. And I think what I try to do with my son that may be helpful for other parents or teachers, like you said, we all have areas where we're fixed or growth mindset. And so when I see him in that fixed mindset kind of space, I remind him of areas that I see him having that growth mindset. I might not always use those terms, but I'm like, look at what you did with this, I don't know, Lego set that he's like putting
Yes.
together. It was hard, you messed up, you stuck with it, you went back to the booklet, you read the instructions, like you
Yeah.
did all of that. You have that in you to do it. And I give him that as like a reminder of what is in him that he can apply to these situations where things maybe are not as enjoyable or easy or as simple as he might have thought they were before he got involved with it. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly. And Tiffany, what you're doing, Dr. Williams, basically is you're rehearsing for him what he's capable of doing. You're helping him remember
Mm,
the successes and things like that. And so what you're doing there is exactly what you need to do as a parent is reinforce effort, reinforce effort, continue to reinforce effort. And
I love
so
that.
that's very, very important.
And I think teachers can do that too in the classroom because I know there are a lot of, teachers listen to this podcast. You have a lot of unmotivated students in class. They are not interested in whatever the subject is or the topic that you're discussing. And so you find it challenging to motivate them in the classroom. It's a very fixed amount of time. We know teachers are on a very fast pace to get information into kids' minds and have them tested on it to demonstrate their knowledge of it. So, like, in the classroom, you can definitely use that praising effort as a motivational tool as well, and giving them that reflection of how they showed up in other areas throughout the school day or throughout the school year to help them overcome maybe a hurdle for a more challenging topic or something that they're just not interested in. Because we talk about that a lot on here too. Sometimes school's just boring.
Yes, it is. It is.
It
It
just
is.
is. And
You have to challenge him. I can remember, Dr. Williams, this example of something that a teacher or a professor did for me, and I think it was maybe a professor in college. That I look back on it, it was one of the wisest things they did. Was I took a test and I got a grade, and let's just say the grade wasn't as good as it could be, and they gave me an opportunity. They gave me the test back and said, "I'll give you 1 hour to um, to look at your answers you got wrong and see if you can do better on them. And if you do better on them, then we'll give you half credit for those things, and then it'll take a grade up." What that professor was doing was is telling me keep trying, keep learning, and then let me stop toward that because it could have been easy for me to go like whatever that score was, that's as good as I am.
right.
But having a chance to go back and look at those answers again and put them in, let me know right away that I
Mhm.
could learn the material. And so that was a habit one of my teachers had that I really enjoyed was always after a test, giving them back and going like, okay, you got this amount of time to, try to correct these.
Right.
That instills effort as well. And
Yeah,
if,
I like
if
that.
and undoubtedly, Dr. Williams, there was always somebody who didn't want to do
Oh, I was just about to say there are some teachers who are just
it.
thinking
Yeah,
right now, I could give a
yeah,
test back to a
yeah.
kid and they'll be like, whatever, I
That's
don't want
okay.
to.
I don't want to do it. And so you automatically know if they don't want to do it, you got to fix mindset, child. So
But I think sometimes teachers and maybe parents too might label that as lazy, not thinking it's fixed mindset. Oh, they're just lazy. But if you think about what you say after that, you're lazy, you don't want to put in the effort. That
yeah,
leads me right back to a fixed
fixed
mindset.
mindset. I'm
Right.
lazy. And if I'm lazy, it doesn't make, I don't need to try.
That's
And so we
right.
have to be careful what we have to be careful. The words are very, very important because children's minds are being mapped, and these things that they're going through are become things that they begin to tell themselves over and over, and it carries over into their teen age and all the way over into their adult life if we're not
Hmm.
careful.
So if there are some parents who are listening or watching right now and they're realizing like, okay, I might have unintentionally reinforced a fixed mindset in my kid. Or if there's a teacher who's like, maybe my fixed mindset that I'm now open to saying that I have has impacted my students, like how can they course correct? All is not lost, right? Like you just said, children's minds are being mapped all the time, so we can course correct. So what are some ways that either parents or teachers can do that without shaming themselves or the kid?
Yeah. So one of the things all of us have to do if we're trying to change our what I call our mind map is we have to take notice of what we're doing. And so the best thing and the best way to do it is begin to make ourselves aware of what we're saying and we're doing and catch ourselves in the middle of what we're doing so that at the time it actually happens, we can begin to remap. And so if
I like
I
that.
say something, so one of the ways I could do it is go like, I could look at all the phrases and things I'm using and I use frequently, and I can write them down and I can say, I am going to replace this with this statement. So if I tell children, for example, you're very smart, what do I change that to?
Hmm.
Um, my phrase now might be is because of the great effort you made great effort, you got good grades. So I'm literally taking the things I'm saying and I'm rewording them,
Yeah.
and then I'm trying to capture those things and say them differently. Like if I get ready to say it now, I know that there's a phrase that I have now that I'm going to replace that phrase with.
I like that. So instead of like, you're so smart, all that, I like the way you gave so much effort to that test, to that
Yeah,
project, to that game, whatever. But using that word effort, I think if you can rephrase what you're saying and include that word effort, that'll lead you to that path of growth mindset and kind of course correcting some of the ways that you have been given praise in the
yeah.
past.
Your hard work is paying off.
Mm.
Those kind of things are the things that, and so you want to change those phrases. And so you got to do a self evaluation. Go like, what is coming out of my mouth that a child is hearing? That I want to rephrase that, and I really, really want to catch myself, and not say those things.
And even like when you just said that, your hard work really paid off. Think about how that resonates more with you as an adult. Just think about yourself as an adult. Somebody came to you and said, your hard work, I see it, and it's really paying off. I feel like that hits deeper than you did a good job. It seems very superficial. You did
Your
a good
heart,
job. Your hard work, I noticed it. It almost speaks to your character versus your action.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's exactly right. It speaks to your character. It speaks to what's inside of you, and we know this that, and particularly teachers know this. They know how hard they worked. There are a lot of teachers who've gone from having their to master's degrees to getting their doctorate degree. They know how hard they worked. They know that somebody didn't just put a stamp on and go, "You're a doctor." I mean, it was work. It was hard work.
Right.
And so, if we could just recognize that, that wow, I got to where I am by my hard work, and so that would be helpful as well. Is to
Right.
recognize your own hard work, recognize what you did, and how your teaching, how your thinking changed about things to help you get where you were.
Right. And then on the flip side of that, if we've been telling kids, "Oh, you're so smart, you're so smart." On the flip side of that, if somebody was has been saying, you're lazy, you don't get it done, just in a very negative way, what are some rephrasings there that parents and teachers can do to kind of back from the negative approach to identifying students' actions?
Yeah, there's a couple of words that I like, and when I talk about that, one is capabilities. Talking about
Mm,
you are capable. The other thing, and a friend of mine, Rodney Bullard, he said this, and he got this quote from someone else, but I think it's very important. Is don't be the victim of low expectations. And
mm,
so, a lot of times, our low expectations, we meet them. They're easy to meet. And
right.
so, you talk about expectations. And so, when I'm having a conversation with anybody, I'm going like, "You're capable of more, and let's raise your expectations."
Mm.
And so those are kind of phrases, expectations, capabilities, where you're literally trying to get them to think about, like, to ID for themselves that they've either set their capabilities or their expectations low, and they need to raise those up. So you're not lazy, you're capable of more.
Mm.
Let's raise our expectation. Let's expect more from ourselves. Those kind of things. But
I
don't
like that.
definitely don't want to say you're lazy. You're
Right.
capable of more. Let's raise your expectations. There's so much more you can accomplish.
Right.
That's
I like that. And not saying it in that negative tone, like you're better than this.
yeah,
Like the tone that you use and the intention that you have behind it, I think matters just as much as well as the words that you're saying too, because I think it's important to, you know, kind of take ownership where you messed up, whether you're the teacher or the parent. Like, you know what? I've been saying you're lazy. And I was wrong. I shouldn't have called you lazy because really what I actually meant was I know you're capable of more.
that's right.
And owning it that way so that kids kind of see, okay, they saw me this way. Now they're seeing me in a different way. And then when you say, let's increase your expectations of yourself, now you're giving them something to reflect on, like, wow, are my expectations of myself pretty low? And you're giving them that opportunity to reflect, and that's what goes back to what you just said. Awareness is the first step, right?
That's the first step. I think back in my life to the people who had the greatest impact on me, Dr. Williams, and here's what they did for me. And I think this is really important. Expectations for me, but they tied that in with high belief in me.
Mhm.
Two go together. So you can tell them to raise their expectations, but your belief, they got to feel like you believe it. And so, in other words, the people who they said you can do more, but I believe you can do more, gave me a lot of confidence. And so, as a teacher and as a parent, it's like people tell when you don't believe in them, and so you've got to find a way as a leader particularly to put that belief in them. And so in the work environment, it's a little easier. But I can remember this as a teacher. The, and some of the teachers may remember this, and they might not. But when I was a child in elementary school in the '60s, one of the things that you wanted to do as a child is you wanted to be the kid that got to clean the erasers and clean the board and those kind of things. And so if the teacher said, "I want you to go out and clean erasers," I was like, "She believes in me." So when
Mhm.
they gave you things to do in the classroom, that was a way of instilling that belief in the person. And so, what kind of things can we do in a classroom that says to a student, like maybe it's sometimes just passing out the pencils, it's whatever. but it's I believe in you.
Right.
And so there's you got to look around and say, like, how do we do that as a parent? How do we say that? And sometimes we give our children, we give them some responsibility,
Hmm.
like you say, like I believe in you. So that's really important. When you raise expectations and you don't raise the how much that you believe in them, then it's going to feel false to the
Hmm.
child to think, oh, you believe I can do it, but you're not treating me like you believe I can do it. So
Right.
they have to go hand in hand.
Yeah, I love that because I know I'm guilty of that with my own kid. I'm like, you know, I believe you can do it, and then he'll even say back like, "Well, it doesn't seem like it because you're standing over me while I'm doing it." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I am."
Yeah, and what that might look like, Dr. Williams, is hey, I want you to work on this, and I'm gonna come back in 30 minutes, and
Right.
I think you can have this done in 30 minutes. What do you think? Yeah, I think I have it. And when you leave, now they're going like, she did leave. She believes I can do this in 30 minutes. And now I'm like, okay, I gotta get this done in 30 minutes
Right.
because she believes I can do it. She expects me to do it. And so,
Right. So it has to match up. Your words have to match with the actions. And I like how you said about giving responsibilities because I know a lot of times, especially in the younger grades, they have class jobs. Like your job is to, do this in the classroom. Your job is to do that. And so then kids take ownership of that. And if they're not meeting the expectation, then that's when you have that conversation with them about effort, about what they're capable of so that they can continue to rise to the expectation. But giving them that sense of responsibility helps them see what you're believing in them in themselves, and
that's
that is
perfect.
like a small seed that you can plant in the younger grades that I think can grow and grow and
And
grow.
go up.
Right.
Yeah, as it
Right.
goes up, as it goes up. And in the workplace, for me, leading the people I have, I always give them a little bit more than what they're capable of.
Hmm.
Okay. But it's always like when a kid is riding a bicycle for the first time, you hold the seat, you push them, and then you let them go and you stand back.
Hmm.
Our children need more of that. And, and so I haven't left you, you know,
Right.
I'm not going to let you get hit by a car. I'm not going to let you fall, but my hands are off to let you navigate for a little while. And you know what happens? They wobble a little bit, and then they stand up. It's similar to the way to that and other things that we do with children. If we just think back to when we had them ride the bike for the first time, they were never going to ride the bike by themselves until you let go.
Hmm.
But it didn't mean that you had to disappear.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's particularly important in the older grades, like for
Yeah.
the older students. If you have, especially middle school, I talked about that a lot on here. That is, I think, the trickiest age group to work with because they think they know everything and they
Yes.
are just at the tip of the iceberg of knowledge and life, right? But you almost feel like you can't tell them anything. But I think if you start speaking to them in this way of you're capable of more, I see that, we can raise your level of expectation so you can, you know, be proud of the hard work and what that hard work got you on the other side of it and not almost force it, but give them those words and then taking our hands off to see what they're going to do with it.
Yes. And then step back in when you need to,
Right.
and give them good feedback and say, "I loved you. I loved your effort. I love if because there's a high possibility that they're going to fail,
Hmm.
and so you can't go back and say, "Oh, you didn't do it," and be sad about it. I loved your effort. Let's get back in it and try it again. I love it. See, and the second part of that is where the resilience piece comes in. I love your effort. Now, get back in there and let's try again. That's building the resistance.
Right.
And that's important too, because it's really important that you help them build their resistance. So every time a child doesn't doesn't do it, there's got to be something that pushes them right back into it
Right.
in order for them to have a growth mindset. Because they don't, then they won't quit the first time they fail because you're, I love your effort. Let's try it
Right.
again.
Yeah. And then they start to gauge what that effort feels like, what that hard work feels like. So asking some of those reflective questions and then giving them the feedback, I think is really important because that resiliency, what the way I term it with my kid is the bounce back spirit. I need you to have some bounce back spirit,
Hey,
right?
I
Like
love it.
I need you to take a hit and bounce back.
Yes. Well, you use that. Teachers everywhere. Y'all just heard it. I need that bounce back spirit. Come on, so
Right.
that's a usable phrase right there. We need that.
Exactly.
We need that to become a phrase of the year. Let's bounce back.
That bounce back spirit because
Bounce
like you
back
said,
spirit.
they're gonna fail. Life
Yes,
is full of first times with many things, and you're going to fail.
you're
And
gonna
then what
fail.
are you gonna do then? That's the question. You failed. Now what are you gonna do
What are you gonna
to
do now?
yeah, what are you gonna do for the next time? Or are you okay with just failing? And if they
Right.
are, then I think that takes the conversation into a different space
Go
to
to different
understand
place.
why they're okay with that low expectation, using
Right.
those phrases like you just gave us about, hey, let's set higher expectations for yourself because you're capable of
Yeah.
more. And I think if we can do that with the students in the classroom and even with our own kids at home, we'll see a ripple effect.
Yeah. And if you do it at home, they'll go into the classroom that way, and it possibly could infect the other children who go like, I want to follow him. I want to follow his lead.
Right. Yep.
Whatever he's. And so typically, what happens when a child, they watch other children to see what they're doing, and they go like,
Oh, yeah.
wow, I mean, okay, I'm gonna do what he's doing. And so before you know it, you've built a culture in your classroom, you built a
Right.
culture in your school, and you built a culture at home,
Right.
as well.
I
So
love that because
yeah,
it kids are watching.
they
They
are
might not
watching.
show it outwardly that, oh, that hit, that impacted me. They might not show it outwardly in the moment, but they're watching, they're soaking things up. And so that's why I
Oh, they
think
are.
it it's really important that teachers set a good model of a growth mindset because kids are watching. Like we just said at the top
Yeah.
of the episode, that fixed mindset could be at the top. And we all know, as the saying goes, poop runs downhill. So we
Yep.
don't want that. So setting that model at the top, the kids are watching and then they start to impact each other. And that's the kind of culture that we want and need in the classrooms and in our schools and at home too, quite
That's
honestly.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I've watched it take place here at Chick-fil-A, how someone with a growth mindset has changed the lives of many. Truett Cathy, I found that would be the perfect person. I'll just kind of review his background a little bit for people that didn't know. When he started opened his restaurant in 1946 in Hateville, 2 years after that, his brother Ben, who was his business partner, was killed in an airplane crash, and he actually lost two brothers in there. Later on, he tried to open a second restaurant, and in Forest Park, it ended up burning down. And so, on and on and on. At the end of the day, so many tragedies, but he stayed with it. And so, in 1967, when he opened his first Chick-fil-A, it's building upon that. Everybody knows what Chick-fil-A is now, but at any given point, when I'm in there, I always grateful to him. Thank you for not stopping.
Mm.
Having benefited from being, I'm like, thank you that in 1946 you started, and in 1948 you didn't stop, and in the 1950s you didn't stop, in the 1960s there were tough times all along the journey. Thank God you didn't stop. What's so interesting about that is because he had such a growth mindset, he attracted other people with a growth mindset. And our organization is built on leaders who have a growth mindset, who set high expectations, who create high belief, and we climb. Our one of our favorite quotes is to climb with care and confidence. So we're going up, and we're going to do it with care, and we're going to do it with confidence. And so we saw every young person that we have go like, I'm climbing, but
Mhm.
I'm going to be sure on every point of the climb, and I'm going to be confident about it. We'll see wonderful, wonderful children made throughout school systems.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because what we do at home
Mhm.
impacts how kids show up at school. What we do at school impacts how kids show up in the community. Like it's
That's
a big
exactly right.
cycle.
Yeah,
And so if we can take a lot of these concepts that we talked about today to get kids on that path to having growth mindsets and being able to, resolve any fixed mindset areas, our community will be better for it.
Absolutely. There's no question. There's no question. So I get
Yeah.
excited about it. Thanks for having me on today. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this. I watched you and have watched you for a long time. Some of our listeners may not know this, but I grew up with Dr. Williams' mom in Columbus, Georgia, and it's just been a joy to get to know her over the years, because from day one, she's always had that growth mindset, and she continues to exhibit it. She's doing this podcast as a gift to everybody because she's trying to help all teachers, children, parents grow. And so it's just great to be on with you today and share and hear
Yeah.
you. That.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time out to be with us today. If you're listening, please make sure you come back to this if you were not taking notes, because there were some nuggets of knowledge dropped here, and you need to be writing this down so you can share it, apply it, and reuse it so that you can impact at home and at school. So I want to thank you so much for joining me this week for Tuesday Talks. And with that, I'll see you next week for a great episode. Bye. Be sure to share this episode and join me next week for a brand new Tuesday Talks. See ya.